Hello, everyone. We have made it to Friday. We have made it to a new month. It is March 1st, 2024, and you have made it to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. I am Jared Stays, and joining me on the line from just west of Woodward is none other than...
It's Devon O'Reilly coming at you from downtown Detroit.
Yeah, and I am coming to you from the home studio today. It just worked out that way. But that way we can at least keep our shtick of both being east and west of Woodward.
Got to keep the shtick, Jared. Even when we're at the same table, we keep the shtick.
Yeah, we do, actually. I'm pretty impressed with us. It's consistency, man. Even if we're both just west of Woodward, I just always have to be east of you. Even wherever we go, I have to be east of you.
It just feels right. It feels right.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about today, and I think we should start out with an opening. You went to a new spot, Mr. O'Reilly.
Yes, now officially open in the David Whitney building is Presley's Kitchen. Just a real quick reminder, this is the food and bev concept that has been talked about, has been clamored for because there was no real dining in the David Whitney building space. That Woodward corner right there had been begging for something other than an art gallery or the different pop-ups. So there is now a full-service breakfast, lunch, and dinner restaurant called Presley's in there. I popped in the other day this week. Nice smattering of people. I think it's still kind of a soft open, but it is definitely open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And again, I'll say it, I won't go through everything, but there's a little bit of everything. You can walk in here anytime from like 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. and they've got food and drinks for you. They've got everything from grilled flatbreads to full entrees. I'm a sucker for shrimp tacos. I don't know if we've talked about this, but I'm becoming a little bit of a connoisseur here in the downtown lunch scene with my shrimp taco expertise. So I had to try the blackened shrimp tacos. They were really good. They had like the fresh avocado on them, not a heavy sauce. The shrimp was grilled really well. So I really enjoyed those. They've got a good fry that they put alongside their handhelds. And then, Jer, it was lunch, but I had to try their espresso martini draft machine, which did not disappoint.
Wait, what? An espresso martini draft machine?
Yeah, I mean...
This is peak brunch lord, my friend.
Exactly, because I think I've said that I'm not the biggest fan of Bloody Marys. I like them once in a while, but sometimes they can get kind of heavy, and it's a lot with brunch sometimes or breakfast. But I'll tell you what, a nice espresso martini, the smoothness, it just scratches me right where I itch for a nice brunch lunch cocktail, give you a little bit of a caffeine buzz along with your other buzz, so you can stay productive, of course, Jared, throughout the rest of the day. And they have it on tap, which I like for consistency purposes. Now I know whenever I go back to Presley's, I know that I'm going to get the exact same espresso martini taste that I did the first time. And there's something cool about that. I like places that have a certain cocktail on draft because you're going to get that consistency. So I was very happy. Kind of just more to come because I am very excited to check this place out for breakfast, perhaps, for a happy hour cocktail. You are going to see Devon O'Reilly at Presley's quite a bit. So if you're into that, check it out. Look for me. I'll say hi.
So what about the visual vibe? Because the renderings kind of whet my appetite a little bit. How did it show up on that regard?
It definitely looks kind of like high end. It still is approachable. The bar is very large. A lot of the seating is more like booths and banquettes. So a little intimate in that regard. The bar is very communal though, kind of wraps around. So you see people across it, creates kind of like natural potential conversations, connections, things like that. Let's not forget the David Whitney building is a hotel and apartments. So you have a lot of a built-in community there. So I think it's kind of a cool mixing place where you'll have hotel guests, you'll have people just passing by, you'll have people who live in the building. It seemed like a really eclectic mix of people, and that's what I'm expecting. And I said, if you haven't been to the David Whitney building recently, they really redid the lobby. It's very much a gathering crossroads of downtown sort of space. So very cool.
Yeah, it's called the Wake Up Call, and it's nitro infused. It's $14 for that espresso martini, which I don't think is totally crazy. I did an episode of Cocktail Sense with Kevin Peterson over at Castelia. Yes, I'm crossing over here a little bit. But we talked about the espresso martini. It's one of those drinks that is kind of hard to nail because if you don't have the right ingredients, I believe that a lot of espresso martinis kind of taste like trash. So I'm glad to hear this one's pretty good.
Yeah, Jared, I will add something there because this is important. And before we get into, my passions here, you're absolutely right that it's one of those things where an espresso martini by any name isn't necessarily an espresso martini. What you get a lot of like the cheap knockoffs at different places is they put a like a coffee flavored liqueur or like a coffee flavored vodka, and they try and make that the base of the espresso martini, and they try and put like, I don't know, Bailey's or something cloudy in it. An espresso martini is not cloudy at all. It is basically the color of, cold espresso, the color of cold brew. It should not be creamy. It should not be cloudy. It should be that smooth color, almost like a pint of Guinness with a foam top. And it has to have, actual espresso or, pure cold brew coffee in it. That's important because otherwise you're just kind of faking it with different flavored liqueurs.
Yeah. We had that conversation over on Cocktail Sense. I think it's a good one to have. I'm going through this menu. I see something that they may have, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm just going to make bold allegations with no basis in fact, Devon.
If not for this podcast, why wouldn't you?
Right. So they have an inspired cocktail called Rock and Rye, and they actually use the Faygo Rock and Rye as a syrup. And who else? Who does that in this town? Who does that but longtime listeners of Daily Detroit? Because the sugar content's so high. Come on, like a Faygo is your syrup, that's a winner.
You know what? If it wasn't lunch, Jer, I would have probably grabbed that as a second cocktail, but I wanted to, had to get back to work. So I kept myself to just one. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be back very soon to Presley's. And I think that Rock and Rye is calling my name. That'll be the next one I try. And the prices, like you said, really aren't bad. $14 and $15 for their signature cocktails. That is below most places now at that level in downtown.
Engineer Randy may appreciate the painkiller. And I'll just mention, none of this is sponsored. This is just, hey, I want to check this out. You went and checked this out. This is your thoughts on it. So, this is in the David Whitney building. Its proper name is Presley's Kitchen. So PresleyKitchen.com if you want to check out all of the menus and everything. Now, Devon, I didn't go anywhere. I had things brought to me because I feel like that is the way to do things in 2024 sometimes.
I know I'm not a big delivery person, but so many people are. And so I am glad that you were able to try this stuff because it's not something I would just go here.
Listen,
and get it.
I bet when your daughter turns 16, you're going to be like, guess what? You're my DoorDash.
Well, that's
just you go get it. Like when I grew up, TVs didn't have remote controls. So back in that day, I was the remote control for my dad back in the day.
Different story altogether, but I'm not disputing that, JR. So what did you have delivered to you?
Elephant Company.
Oh yeah. Well, we talked about them a show or two ago. It sounded very interesting. Again, not something I usually go for, but I mean, it's an EMBC project, correct? So they always do good work.
So I'll preface this by, we were working on the brand new website and newsletter platform because we got big things ahead for 2024. And engineer Randy and I were hungry. And so were some people around the space. So what we did, apparently, I'm going to say this up front, we were the first order ever for the Detroit Elephant & Co.
Get out of here, really?
Number one, at least according to the delivery person. Now, they're also rolled out in Royal Oak in the intervening week or so. But we were number one, and I'm going to take that title. I did use no special things. We did not say that we're Daily Detroit. We just ordered it. In fact, we even ordered it with Randy because sometimes I get recognized. So I sometimes, if we're going to try things, don't order things. I have the person I'm with order the thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because I have been recognized before. I don't mean that as a flex.
Can I say just you're a very recognizable person?
Yeah, for multiple reasons. So we tried 3 different things. We did the elote pizza.
Oh, God. Okay, I love elote. So now, all right, you might have sucked me in already.
See, I believe there is an inner fat kid in you.
Dang it. I do. I love elote.
Spicy pepperoni and the spicy meatball.
Okay, that sounds like a heck of a lineup.
All right, so these are Detroit-style pizza. Oh my gosh, the portions. All right, the elote with the chorizo, the corn, everything was on point. I was not expecting this. I don't want to say it tasted the same because it didn't. It's a different, more of true pizza feel. Whereas I feel like sometimes paisai, and I like paisai almost feels like flatbread that is pizza, but has all those things. Whereas everything was consistently pizza when it came to Elephant & Company.
Okay.
This elote was really good. In fact, I had enough where I brought it back to my elote loving roommate who proceeded to devour the whole thing. Literally, I thought I'd have a leftover slice. I was wrong. That was gone immediately.
That's what roommates are there for, just to disappoint you, eat all your food, and,
Pretty much. We appreciate you. The spicy pepperoni was good. I love pepperoni. So here's my deal. I am being more health conscious lately. And so if I have pepperoni or any kind of smoked meat, anything, it's very intentional. It has to be a special situation. I used to be somebody who would just house a pepperoni pizza in no time. but I can't do that anymore. I just can't. So it's like, if I'm going to have one slice, it's got to be a good slice. And the spicy pepperoni, it was kind of the old style pepperoni, crisped up. I was not disappointed. And that's the thing. It used to be that I would take any pepperoni pizza. My bar was low, but now my bar has to be high. And it met the bar.
Jared, can I confirm, is the pepperoni itself spicy? Or were there like one of those like hot honey drizzles that makes it spicy?
No, it was not a hot honey thing. It was not.
Okay.
I don't know if it's
pepperoni is spice.
Yes. I don't know if that's available. We've talked about my feelings on hot honey before. I am of the unpopular group that I am not a fan.
Boo. I love it.
Hey, I had some pizza in New York with hot honey, and I picked this thing up, and it just like dripped, and my entire hand was sticky like a beehive. And that's just not my vibe. What it does is it turns pizza into a knife and forker for me, and I believe that's sacrilege.
I agree. You got to keep it with your hands, even if you turn into a Jer Bear with honey paws.
And then finally, the spicy meatball. Holy! If you're looking for like this intense, spicy meatball ricotta vibe, it was a lot. I'm down with it, but like that was a one slicer for me. I'm all for it.
That's rich. That sounds really rich.
Oh, it was rich. It was like the Black Forest double dark chocolate of cakes, but pizza.
Right. You need small portions of that. I believe.
That one is indulgence. File that under indulgence. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fast. It was easy. And it's good to know that they're up in Royal Oak because I know a lot of listeners are like, you guys only talk about the city. And we do talk about the suburbs quite a bit at times. And I'm just trying to be more conscious. They have rolled this out in Royal Oak as well for delivery. So you can check it out. They're also doing like beer delivery and stuff like that too.
Sweet. Well, yeah, they make good beer. So it is sometimes hard to find. So if I could get it delivered to my house, that's a plus.
I believe it's elephantandco.com, which they really should have the .co. Like elephant. Maybe that's too nerdy. But like the nerd in me is like elephantand.co is what the domain. But I get why they did it. Anyway, I'm showing my geek. Shall we talk development, sir? But I've got an angle because we talked about this a little bit, but I've got an angle.
Okay, let's go.
So we've mentioned this whole like 600 apartments, research facilities, Michigan State University partnering up with Henry Ford Health, new center. It's actually going to be right near the studio, a lot of this project. So on Instagram and things like that, we're going to have a front row seat. Our Daily Detroit Minute, I highlighted for one of the segments what's happening over there. A big transformation. Michigan State University is now the majority holder of the Fisher Building. Towers are going to get built. The Detroit City Council approved the incentive package, and it's expected that the state of Michigan, with their brownfield, is going to approve their incentive package. So this is a green light to go for this thing. $3 billion in investment.
And a relatively small percentage, even though it's a big amount of money, a relatively small percentage of that is incentives, as other big projects go.
Compared to, say, District Detroit or something. I'm going to look back to that in a second. So I'm going to have details you can go to in the show notes or go to Urbanize Detroit. Robin did a write-up on it, so go check that out. I want to take a different angle on this because, so I posted this up on social media, and we've done episodes on it. We've talked about it, multiple people on the show. And yet, people still tell me they didn't know MSU was doing this stuff. And yet, this is one where I feel everyone's feeling like every time I talk about it, it's like, I didn't know this was happening. I feel like, and this is inspired by a wider conversation where online's kind of showing how many media outlets highlight elite and Ivy League schools more than other places. But here's the deal. When it comes to like development or doing things, nothing beats U of M stuff. It is my experience, and this is I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion or maybe unpopular realization looking at the data and looking when I talk to people. It's that, that U of M Innovation Center, it's only $250 million. It will have an impact, but I firmly believe this med center, between the residential, the spin-off projects in Milwaukee Junction, all this stuff, will have a much larger impact on the city with this $3 billion project. But everybody seems to know about the Innovation Center. Everybody's focused on the District Detroit. And I feel like there is an audience focus. When it's U of M, people show up, people talk about it. When it's any other school, I don't even want to say it's just MSU. Any other school, there is not the fervence of the sharing. There isn't the passion for it. When I put something out on social media on it, people literally wrote back to me, I don't really care as much if it's not U of M. And I just think that's really interesting that, yes, there are a lot of people who are in media who go to these different schools and whatever, But nowadays, the audience and the algorithm really determine what we see. And frankly, a lot of times media writes what people want to read, or they create videos that people want to watch. And it seems like U of M dominates that. What are your thoughts? You're a U of M grad, to be clear.
Yeah, but it is confusing a little bit, though, because, I understand I can try and take my bias off. Obviously, the big block M and big blue is very prevalent in the state of Michigan, and huge alumni base, all that. We are the most notable program in the state. Sorry, we just are. But having said that, I know for a fact that there's way more Spartan grads who stay in Michigan, the stats show, than U of M grads who generally tend to come from other places. And it's an issue in and of itself that we have all these U of M graduates who end up going to school here and then go off to the coast, back to other places to work and get jobs and stuff. So I bet you that, there's more Spartan grads in Michigan than there are U of M grads. And so to that, I'm a little surprised because this is such a huge thing that's going to happen. Like you alluded to me, it dwarfs truly almost any project currently underway or announced, save for Michigan Central. I think that's the only project that could potentially outdo this in terms of impact. And even that's debatable. Just because of the size, the footprint of where all this is taking place is massive. There's multiple billion-dollar industries involved in it, and billion-dollar companies involved in it. You have the meds play, which is just fantastic. We're not going to get into the details of the project there because we've talked about it so much, but everything from affordable housing to new medical facilities to, hospital towers. This is absolutely massive. I can't understate the impact of this project. It is going to be absolutely transformational, and I don't think there's anything bigger right now than this except for maybe Michigan Central.
Well, I'm curious what people think. dailydetroit@gmail.com. And you know what? If you don't want your thing shared, just tell me. But be honest with me about your thoughts. I think I got some good, honest feedback from folks. I do think that going to U of M is a bit of a lifestyle to an extent. I think that kind of hypes things up a little bit, but I'm very interested to see. My experience is it seems like the Chick-Fil-A is going to get more buzz, the new Chick-Fil-A in downtown Detroit, than some of the stuff. And I only say that half jokingly. We're going to get into downtown Detroit retail in a second after we pay a bill, Devon.
All right, let's do it, Jer.
All right. Well, I want to thank Castalia Cocktails for their support of Daily Detroit. You do not just drink cocktails there, you experience them with matching scents and knowledgeable barkeeps to guide you. It is a great experience. I know that firsthand. Try one of their pairings or feel free to go off menu with an adventure for the senses. The menu both tells you how boozy a drink is, and there is a full non-alcoholic lineup taking care to give you a top sensory experience no matter how you'd like to drink. Whether it's the intimate indoor bar with less than 20 seats or on the patio outside enjoying the best Detroit has to offer, Castalia is a great spot for a night out, a drink after dinner, or a date. And let me tell you, with this warm weather that we've had the last few days, there is a lot that Detroit has to offer, and I was already thinking about the Castalia patio earlier this week. Castalia is open to all Wednesdays through Saturdays from 5 to 11 p.m. with unique experiences for small groups anytime with a reservation. You can learn more at CastaliaCocktails.com. That's CastaliaCocktails.com. And I'm sure, Devon, we're going to enjoy a libation there soon.
We will, Jared, and I'm looking forward for it to being outside, and warmer days are certainly ahead.
100%. All right, let's talk about that downtown retail changing a bit. There's been a lot of buzz because you have Chick-Fil-A, and a lot of people have very strong feelings about Chick-Fil-A. You have Chipotle. You have a Dunkin coming in. A number of chains. You also have some independent places or more niche places. You've got the Gillies. You've got Adelina from Fabio Viviani. You got a few different things like that happening there. But it seems to some that there is a change. I read a report in Cranes where a realtor felt a lot of relief that Quicken is allowing more chains to be in their spaces and that there will be a lot of demand for that. And I know a lot of people like us to follow the independent places, but I also know that when we cover a chain, people pay attention. Like I remember when we covered Chicken Guy and it blew up because people wanted to hear about Randy and going to Chicken Guy. That's Guy Fieri's restaurant in Livonia. So what say you, Devon? Is this a strategy shift? Is this going on? What do you think of it overall?
I think this was always Dan's vision for what the downtown development would be and what that Main Street, call it Woodward, whatever, corridor would look like. It would be a mix of national brands and small businesses and local places. And I think, honestly, the mix is what you want, because to me, as someone who certainly stands more on the side of the small local places. I'll always opt for a small local business before a chain. But I'm glad they're there because then they bring people down. So if people come down for the Shake Shacks, for the Chipotles, for the Chick-Fil-A's, and they see Roasting Plant or Central Kitchen or House of Pure Vin, like I'm all for that because I think you bring people down, you show them what's here, and you have a nice mix of chains and smaller businesses. And I mean, honestly, to a business, we could almost go back and forth and say, all right, well, here's a chain place that's on Woodward, and here's a locally owned place. And you could go back and forth with that, however many times. And you could even throw Presley's in there as, that's a local small business owner, a local small restaurateur. And I think that this is kind of the right mix. I'm actually excited to see this going forward. Easy Peasy is another one, in the old Cornerstone. We've mentioned that. That's going to go in local. So I like the mix. I appreciate chain restaurants because we need to get more people downtown. And if that's what's going to get them over here, that's proven out. That's why there's lines at some of these places in the suburbs when they open up, is because there's just this, inherent demand.
You mentioned about people coming down. I want to talk about that for a second because I saw a stat that it was very interesting to me. Obviously, we know that most of General Motors employees have left the RenCen and that they are out at the Warren Tech Center. Like there isn't official data around that, but I'm pretty certain that's the case, that General Motors has reshifted their balance, and I don't know how long they're going to be at that tower, or they may just be there in name only for a while. But Rocket, and to be fair, United Wholesale Mortgage too, the mortgage industry has taken a huge hit the last few years. And get this, I did not know this. In 2021, Rocket Mortgage had 26,000 employees. Now it's down to 14,700. That's like 11,000 people who are not shopping, going downtown. To be honest, with work from home, a lot of those people are probably not getting reabsorbed by other companies. There's not many other people in that same industry downtown. We have been talking about work from home, but I think between those two things, I feel like that's a gigantic blow that we really haven't talked about. That's taking away a small town and being like, yeah, you should still try to keep going with everything that you're doing for these downtown businesses.
Yeah, and we have to operate under that new mix of what's down here. It's not just 12,000 people who just are working from home and may slowly come back to the office. That's not happening. We've settled in that. The dust has kind of settled in a sense, and there's some people who are just not coming back because they don't work at the company anymore.
I hear it from listeners, by the way, people who said, hey, I love the show, used to work downtown. That's part of my joke about more suburban stuff, because a bunch of them no longer come to the city except for special events.
Yeah. Okay. I do think that it will trend. Like we will slowly creep up in terms of more people working downtown just because of perhaps new businesses opening up, just the general slowish growth, no boom or anything like that. But I think more people, more offices and a little bit more apartments, things like that. So I think overall there will be more people downtown. It's just going to be a slow increase. But as I've said before, I think that we have to really double down on our downtown being an entertainment space, a place for conferences, conventions, for just coming down to generally enjoy yourself, to try interesting foods and check out cool places. I mean, if nothing else, we got to really lean into that. And, we had these innovation districts that are anchoring it, thank God. And hopefully what happens with Detroit Innovation Center and Michigan Central and to the north, the yet-to-be-named Henry Ford MSU Pistons development. Those kind of places are magnets that will bring people here. But the downtown core, I think, really more so becomes, yes, office, but it's really more of an entertainment space more than anything. And that's not bad. We just have to really lean into that.
I am interested in people's thoughts. 313-789-3211 for the phone or dailydetroit@gmail.com. Devon O'Reilly, so good to talk to you.
Always great to talk to you, Jer. Happy weekend. We're getting closer to spring and St. Patrick's Day. I've got my little clock on the wall that I put a new every day. I put it one day forward towards St. Patrick's Day. So just hey, I'm excited.
I think we need to do a St. Patrick's Day guide, one for going out and then one for adults.
Absolutely. Not that adults can't go out, but it falls on a Sunday this year, which is interesting. Some people will say, oh, it's a weekend. Oh, I can go out. But some people may say, well, it's Sunday. Might as well just, stay at home and enjoy myself. So I'm not going to say what I'm going to do yet. I'm going to save that for a future show. but I am more than happy to provide you with suggestions and tell you what my plans are.
I was driving around and I actually saw St. Patrick's Day lawn ornament. So I was like, all right, we're coming up on it.
If you don't think my house is decorated for St. Patrick's Day, you're crazy. Yes, I also have put the decorations up.
Well, luck of the Irish to you, Mr. Devon O'Reilly.
May the luck be with you as well.
With that, I am Jer Stays. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to drop 5 stars on your favorite podcast app. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Thank you to all of our members who make this thing possible. Thank you to Cheyenne Nocerini for editing some of these episodes. Engineer Randy Walker, we are working on the new website. You are awesome, and thank you for all of your work. Luciano Marcone's been putting up some old post data, doing some stuff like that. That's been absolutely great. Norris Howard, Fletcher Sharp, and of course, all of you for listening. With that, I am Jer Stays.
I'm Devon O'Reilly.
Remember that you are somebody. We'll see you around Detroit.